right, and welcome to Mastering the Hustle interview series. I'm your host, Joel Calkins, and today I am joined by Andy Zhulenev, who is the Chief Executive Officer of OneForce. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Andy here, based in Seattle, Washington. Well, by now I am a serial entrepreneur. This is venture number 6 for me. I've done 2 corporate startups and then 4 independent ones. We've started OneForce 3 years back and building the company right now. So happy to share more about that.
Great, thank you. So you've been running OneForce for almost 4 years now, but you just mentioned yourself, this is what, startup number 6, potentially. And so what initially caused you to want to start your own business, to do your own thing? Take me back to that story. Help us understand how you got there.
Yeah, so the previous startup was sold to Zscaler, so we had an exit event. I was on the business side, and typically the product team sort of joins the company and stays there. People who are on the business side don't need to stay as long, so I could transition out in 3 months from that exit event. And then I was thinking what to do next. And ultimately, I went back to the topic where I had quite a lot of passion for, and it's how to grow the business. Doing different startups, being in corporate business roles before, you always are trying to find ways to get new clients, convince people, right, engage them. And it always looked like an art. And so what we're doing here, we're trying to demystify marketing and business development and say, well, actually, there is a formula there, depending on your industry, where it is in its cycle, development cycle, depending on the size of the product, depending it's B2B or B2C, there are actually proven ways to build trust. Ultimately, that's key part of the formula. And so the key focus here is on marketing and business development. And ultimately, we want to ride a certain technological wave. And that wave is language AI or generative AI, what's known LLMs. So 4 years back, we recognized that language AI is coming and that it will be to knowledge work like robotics to manufacturing. And hence, we have selected marketing and business development as a functional area, but the technological wave we are running is the language AI wave.
Nice. So obviously that's just a rapidly moving dynamic there with language AI, generative AI. How do you, as the leader of OneForce, stay on top of the trends and the changes in the rapid development in the AI space?
Yeah, no, you're right. Technology moves very fast. There are a couple of, let's say, corporate leaders with Microsoft, ChatGPT, Google, and a few other players in that space, and some competition coming from China, creating open source models. It's a very fast moving space. I mean, ultimately, if we're playing in it, we need to understand the underlying architecture and what the systems can do. And so the niche that we're selecting and our contribution to it that we're doing with the brain core system has an alternative architecture that can do certain things that the classical LLM architecture cannot do. Hence, we look at it as complementary, and that's a short answer at an architecture level. At the same time, there need to be a focus on specific application, and we focus on search in larger databases. How can we clean up, let's say, 10,000 records and find 5,000 relevant versus using traditional LLM or vector-based models where you just find the most relevant result, 1 or 2 or 10. And so focusing on something specific certainly is important to stay relevant in that space.
Absolutely. And you guys have chosen the marketing and automation space to do this in. So as you're looking at growing your organization and making those decisions on how you're going to innovate within that space, how do you make decisions on where to move your product and how to grow your product versus maybe a different opportunity? Because I would imagine there's a lot of different places you could adapt the product to, but how do you stay disciplined to just the decision to grow it in the way that you guys have decided to grow it?
Well, ultimately, we want to have success, right? And to have success, we need to have customers buying, paying for the product.
Mhm.
And then you, at some point, start recognizing that to achieve that goal, you need to be talking to real customers, real people with real use cases, and really, instead of building a product and then trying to sell, you need to create a motion of people finding those people who can be your potential customers and working with them even before the product is built, and building community around that. And so that was a kind of a learning over the many sort of businesses that I've built. And so it's still not as simple to implement. People call it maybe lean startup, but you read those pages in a book, but how you interpret those pages in a book really comes only from experience. And so the very simple rule here is to be continuously talking to customers and see use cases of how they could use the technology you're building or product you're building. And that's our first and foremost priority.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up Lean Startup and looking at reference customers. How do you, and the reason why I'm asking is I just had a conversation with another business that's looking to pivot their organization, and we had the conversation about reference customers. How do you decide who to bring on as part of your development process of using reference customers? How do you decide who to work with to help inform where you take your product?
I'm not sure there is really a clear formula. You ultimately end up talking to a lot of people, and there may be some criteria that you can use to really nail down that this person or this company may be a good fit. And one of those criteria is, are those people innovators in their own space? And those people self-identify themselves. You kind of can see that they are focused on changing something in their business. They are innovating in their business, and you bring solution to solve a portion of their problem. And so that's really an indicator that this is a right innovation customer for you versus somebody who is just curious but doesn't have a clear objective in their own space to accomplish.
Yeah, great. So let's talk about you as the CEO, the leader of this company a little bit. Again, going back to the fact that you've started, 6 companies, OneForce being the latest. A lot of people have a desire to go out on their own or do their own thing, but maybe they don't because they have certain fears. What are what's some advice that you would have for somebody who might be thinking about stepping out on their own but hasn't done that yet?
I mean, building a startup is extremely difficult undertaking. It takes quite a bit of learning. It requires a very wide angle of view. So you really need to understand not only how to build a team, motivate the team towards a product, you at the same time need to find customers, potential customers, engage and interest them, not to talk about a bunch of sort of back office related functions like finance, accounting, taxes, right? That needs to be done. It's a extremely complex space, and knowing what works and what doesn't only comes from experience. I think if somebody is earlier in their career, the best advice I can give is to be part of one or two startups before you start your own, and learn from that experience, and then you have a much clearer picture of what needs to be done when you start your own business. There are some cases where maybe people have led business units within larger corporate organizations, right, and stepped out, and they also have certain level of understanding of a business. They have a network, and they have a set of people in the industry who respect them, and those people become their initial customers, right, if they stay in the same space. So that also works. But what really doesn't work, if you just have an idea and you're starting something, then you really don't know what you don't know, and that's kind of a no-go.
Yeah.
So if you are interested of doing something new, then partner with people who are doing it today, learn from them, become part of the ecosystem, build friends, find colleagues that are experts in certain areas, right? And then when you have that, you can build your own business.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Be a part of the ecosystem that you're trying to be a part of, make friends, find those experts. And at that point, then, if everything checks out, then, maybe look at starting your own business. I think that's a good word of advice. So thank you for sharing that. Andy, I can imagine as you're growing this and as you've done this time and time again, that a lot of your time is spent nurturing the business, growing it, building out your team. How do you stay centered? How do you find time for maybe the things that aren't work related, life, friends, activities? Like how do you keep all of that in check?
I don't think I'm good at that. People are wondering why they see emails from me at 3 a.m. at night, and asking when do I sleep. So it's still a challenge. It's a lot of exciting things that can be done, and you don't have really any control of your time than your calendar. So the best practice for me is really to start blocking certain times on the calendar when I have to be at the gym, or block some time even for kind of personal things, or portion of the weekend. So you start managing your time through the calendar the way you manage it for work. You maybe start managing it for the personal things as well, and then you can allocate time, because ultimately you want to be in shape, you want to be clearly thinking, and you need that right balance to be productive at work. So as soon as you understand that, you start balancing because you understand why you're doing it.
Yeah, I like what you said about scheduling your personal time like you would at work. I think sometimes the weekend hits and we have no plan, so we kind of just let it go. But I think it's a good way in order to get the things done, like you said, exercise or maybe spend some time with with family members or friends or whatever other civic activities you might want to be a part of. So that's a good takeaway.
The best trick there is to say that you must do it. So you
Mm,
not leave yourself an option of should I do it or should not do it. You have to be at the gym. You must be there, and there is no option.
yeah.
Then it works.
No, that's good. So then are there times in your schedule where you just have to like stop what you're doing and say it's time for the gym? Like do you have to have that conversation with people at times?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I maybe if it's not scheduled time, then maybe I will be half an hour late. But still, it's a time slot that's allocated
Mhm.
and to be done.
Yeah. So Andy, as you look at the world of AI, which you're a part of, and you look at marketing and automation, there's a lot of tools out there. It's a very vast, fast-moving industry. Where do you see your business going? What plans or goals do you have for your business that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, AI is everywhere. It's basically a new technological wave. Previously, people build apps, um,
Mhm.
and with apps, you have a UI, and you as a person sort of enter data, systematize your work, right? And then it spits out some sort of results or presents you the data analysis. With AI, certain analytical tasks can be done by AI, so it starts eating into the work that normally people had to do themselves. And it changes interfaces, changes a lot of things. The interesting part is that when we look at marketing business development, we are not trying to build necessarily everything ourselves or kind of look at everything. We're actually more looking at it to be an integrator of third-party solutions with point niche applications where we build something of our own. And so our goal in marketing and business development more to systematize the best innovations available, bring them as part of the technology stack that we're using, and then put processes in terms of how these tools can be used in orchestration with a central data repository where the key information about potential customers is collecting or how campaigns are running, but then the different tools can be plugged in into that overarching framework. So hence we love discovering new startups, new innovators in that space, and I think there will be hundreds of solutions. We see our role is actually being able to discover them and stitch them together into something integrated, that integrated workflow that works seamlessly end to end versus a point solution for something.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. One last question, if I may. A lot of people might be wondering as they're looking at their business and they're contemplating what the future holds for them and their company, and they think about AI and things like generative AI. Obviously, ChatGPT, Midjourney are some of the common ones, but there's some more sophisticated stuff out there. And what advice would you have for somebody that maybe isn't as familiar with AI, but they're trying to think about how do I stay on top of this for my own company? What advice would you have for them to help them stay informed and think about AI in terms of their business?
In today's world, people join different communities, groups, right, where these topics are discussed. And there are different types of these groups. They can be kind of networks of entrepreneurs, right, that people are in business and then they start sharing best practices. They are more technology-centric forums. So I think tapping into those communities is the best way to discover new things when you are not doing only your own research, right, on internet, and then trying out a tool. You have multiple people doing it and sharing that knowledge. And so I think leveraging community as part of that discovery is a key for success. And then giving back to that community your own use cases also sort of helps get into maybe a deeper level of dialogue with other people and deep diving with somebody else in your specific use cases.
Great. I think that's a great way to end it. Leverage your community, leverage other people's knowledge and experiences. That's true for AI, and I think that's true for all aspects of business. So, Andy, thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I wish you the best with OneForce and wherever your career takes you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.